We'll talk about all those things. Uh, let's talk about tables and columns today. Okay. Now, we know that tables are nothing but a way to store data in terms of rows and columns, as we have been doing it with databases. Tables and columns are used to store data in ServiceNow as well, right? So basically, hang on, this guy is pinging me. Okay. So in ServiceNow as well, we can create custom tables. There are tables created already by ServiceNow that you can utilize. Um, as we talked about single system architecture, ServiceNow uses for all the application or custom application, the single system architecture that circumferences the tables and databases as well. So as we will go into the table application and table modules and tables and columns modules, we will see how the data is organized in different tables named for different applications. And there are different relationships that are established while creating those tables. There are concept of extending tables from another table where we have a relationship of child class and parent class. So all these kind of relationship uh, is available in ServiceNow tables as well. Plus, we will see the creation of custom tables, editing the custom tables. We will also see how to delete custom tables and find out how to see the relationship of one table with another tables, right? And then in case of extended tables, how is data stored into the tables is also something that we'll be looking into. Okay?
Okay.
Table can extend us another table. Now again, the concept of inheritance comes here. A table that extends another table is called a child class, and the table it extends is called the parent class, right? So we have the child class and parent class relationship here in ServiceNow tables as well. Now for a child class record, the database stores new fields unique to child class and stores the rest of the fields in the parent class. So the child class, see, when you create a child class or child table, and you are inheriting or extending the some parent table or parent class, then the columns of the parent class will also appear in child class, but actually the data will be stored into the parent class. And we are talking about the columns which are of the parent class. So the child class will, when you open the child class, you will actually see columns from the child class and columns from the parent class. But the data is organized in such a way that the columns column information from the child class will only get stored in the child class, and rest of the information will be stored into the parent class, and they will be tied together with a unique sys ID. So for the same record, both the tables will have a single sys ID. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the relationship. You have table A, which is a child class, table B, which is the parent class. Now in the table B, you have 5 columns, let's say. And in table A, the child class, you created 2 more columns, right? Now when you create this table, you are extending table B, which is table A from table B. Table B is child class. You are extending table A from table B. Now, when you open the table B, you will see 7 columns into totality. all the 7 columns from both the tables will be displayed there, and there will be one unique sys ID into the child class. Now when you open the parent class and you open the same record, right? You might have one of the fields other than sys ID, which will be common in both the tables. When you open that, you will see that the same sys ID is also available into the parent table or parent class. So that is what I am saying. So the data will be stored in both the tables. Parent class will take care of all those columns which are its own columns, and child class will take care of all those columns which is child class columns. And each ID is the unique relationship, unique field between these two tables. Okay.
Okay.
Now the record in the child class has corresponding record with the same sys identifier. This is what I'm talking about in both the parent and child classes, which will always be accessed together as one record by the platform. So when you open the table, child table, you will see that this looks like a single record because the columns from both the tables will appear in the child table. Okay, it will look like a single record, although the data will be organized in the way that we have discussed. Now,
So when we access let's say we have 2 columns in the parent and 3 columns in the child. So totality there is a 5 columns in one record which is going to be accessed by sysid. So that table will be created in a memory that is so I mean if we have to refer to all 5 columns, we have to refer to the child table, not
exactly.
the okay, not the
Yes,
parent table.
exactly, exactly. You will have to refer the child table, and then there is a mechanism to access the records from both the tables. See, if you have to, and we will talk about it. We'll show the schema map and talk about it. So uh, since you are storing data in both child and parent tables, and now you are accessing the record from the child table. Now you have to make sure that the columns from the child table, when you call it, you will do something like child table name dot the column name from the child table, right? But when you do for the parent class columns, you will have to do child table name dot parent table name dot the column from the parent table. So this is something known as dot walking in ServiceNow, because you appropriately walk through the classes that you have, and then you access the member element from the class or the table. Make sense?
What you said, data invoking, right? Data invoking.
Yeah, data invoking, or we say it not data invoking exactly. We call it dot walking. I'll write it here.
Not walking.
Dot walking. So this is a simple term introduced by ServiceNow, which is known as dot walking. So the example is, if you have table A, which is the child table. Well, let's make it parent table. Table A is a parent table. Table B is child table. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I see your screen.
Right. Let's also assume that call 1 and call 2, call 1 to call 5. So this is
But
yeah.
hmm,
Go ahead.
yeah, but the question is like if I have to access a columns of the uh, of a parent table, then why should I have to do child dot parent dot columns? I can directly do like parent dot columns, right?
That you can do that, but when you are in context to the parent table alone. Now, when you are in context of the child table and you are trying to access the columns from the parent table, then you have to do dot walking. So setting appropriate context is important. Now, being in the child table, if you are trying to access parent table's columns, then you have to do dot walking. If you are into the context of parent table alone, you can do parent table name dot the column name. However, in that case, you will not be able to access the elements of the child class there. right? See, you have to when you insert a record into the child table with all the columns from the parent table, so you should see the tuple or record that you are inserting as a bundle, right? And as a bundle, when you are inserting record into the table, it goes into the parent table, it goes into the child table. Now, when you try to access the columns from both the tables, then you cannot do it simply by going into the parent table and looking for the records from the columns from that parent table. If you do that, you will not be able to access the columns from the child table. Make sense?
Okay. Mhm.
So that's why you go into the child table and you do something like table B dot table A dot and then column 1. Now also see that this column 1 in child table can be column 1 can also be used in the parent table, but then you have to use a specific identifier. How do you identify which column 1 you are referring to? If you do table B dot column 1, that will refer to the child class table column 1. If you are doing table B dot table A dot column 1, you are referring to the column 1 from the parent table. Make sense?
Mhm. Okay.
We'll see through it in the examples if when we go to it.
But so when, let's say now if I update a column one of a child table, it directly propagate my change to parent table?
See, if you are altering the child table column, it will only be altered into child table, right? If you are altering the parent column, then it will be reflected into the child table as well, but the record will be spatially changed into the parent table. That's what it is saying. For child class records, the second point here, for a child class's record, the database stores new fields unique to child class. This will go into the child class and stores the rest of the fields in the parent class. So if you are altering any data, if it is related to the, if it's the column from the child class, it will go into the child class. If it is related to the column into parent class, it will go into the parent class, right?
No, my question was when you are going to be in the child table context, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then you are going to let's say column one, which is apparently column one is from parent table, but
Okay.
since we are accessing through the child dot parent dot column one, and
Uh-huh.
if you are updating that, uh,
Mm-hmm.
then then that change will also update parent table automatically.
Yes, that will display as updated in both the tables.
Yeah. Okay.
If
Yeah,
you
this Rahul, just one thing, the SID will be uniquely identified only for child class or else can be both.
sys ID will be available in both the tables.
Okay,
In this case, there will be a single sys ID, but it will be reflected in both the tables. Single sys ID because we have a relationship established between both the tables. So the single sys
okay,
ID will be reflected in both the tables.
okay,
Now, if you edit a field on a child table that is present on the parent table, you will also change it for the parent table and all other child tables. This is what we're talking about,
Mm, okay.
right?
Got the point.
Moving on. So, creating, editing, deleting, or seeing the relationship of the tables goes into modules named as tables and columns available in ServiceNow. So when you go into the application navigator and type table and or tables and columns, you will see the table administration modules and you will see all those modules responsible for managing the tables within ServiceNow. Now, before we do that, there are certain conventions that I see are being used by ServiceNow in terms of naming the tables that are created. For example, the system tables would typically start with sys underscore. So whatever table name that you have is prefixed by sys underscore. So that shows you that these are basic system tables, right? The tables related to applications will typically start with application name underscore. For example, if you are referring to CMDB tables, the tables will start such something like, if you are looking for configuration item table, so it will start CMDB underscore CI, right? If you are looking for server table, CMDB underscore CI underscore server. So this is the trend that you will see. The naming convention of the tables will be application name underscore the table name, right? Now, if you are creating, let's say, another application, you would see application lifecycle management is another application that I will say is there. So the table naming convention there will be ALM underscore asset, right? Or ALM underscore some other table, right? So this is, and if the table name is two word name, the table name has two words into it, then all those names will be separated by underscore. So this is the general tradition. We're talking about this tradition so that you are able to understand the table naming conventions, and if you are browsing through the list of tables, you understand a little bit about what type of tables are there and what application it could be related to, and it will be easier for you to understand the context of the tables and look into and find out the different tables within the ServiceNow system. Okay. Now,
Okay.
now in ServiceNow, if you are going to with this developer instance, if you are going to create a table, so you will see your tables being created something like X underscore APPL or something like this, right? So here in this case, you will see that this is again instance ID is also appended. So your ServiceNow instance will have a specific ID associated to it, and that instance ID gets appended to the table name, right? So you will see the custom tables that you create will have these kind of prefixes available. That will show you that this comes from the application ID will be appended to it, and that in that format the table will be created. Another form of table name convention that you may see is U underscore. So typically, some of the tables when you create it in the global scope, uh, when you create this in global scope, the tables that you create, the user table or the custom tables, will be appended by, you will see the prefix of U underscore, right? But as soon as you change the scope of the tables, from the global scope to a local application scope, then the table naming convention for the same table will change. Okay, we'll see all these things when we do practical. Now let's go back to our ServiceNow instance. Take you here. Can you see my browser?
Yes.
Okay, so
I see.
here we are. Yeah, Anand, you were saying something?
No, no. I'm looking at your browser.
Okay, all right. Now tables and columns goes into our tables and columns modules. This goes into system definition application. Within system definition, we have tables and columns. When you hit tables, you will see a list of tables coming in as a list of record. All the tables that are available in this instance will appear here. This goes as a list of record. It also has this new button which allows you to create a new table, right?
So any table, right? If it is a global scope or if it is application scope, we have to go under system definition and go to this table menu.
Right. As an administrator, you can see it, right? All users, end user will not be able to see this, right? So
Correct.
if you are administrator, you can see any table that you have here, right? Now, so this, so again, this is a list of records, gives you the table creation link, a new button that will allow you to open up the interface for creating a new table. Other option that we have, which I prefer much because the data is organized here in a better way, and I have much more functionality than the table module. So I use this tables and columns more, and this shows me the list of tables in this list box that we have here. All the tables will appear here. It also gives me a button to create a new table. It gives a button to create a new application. It gives me a button to browse through the applications created already. Gives me the list of all the tables that I have already. When I click on this, it shows me all the column names here. And when I click on the columns, it shows me all the column attributes as well, right? So all sorts of information will appear here on a single page. That's why I like this tables and columns module more than I like the tables module. Now I also have the functionality to edit the table, see the schema map, delete all records from this interface, and then I have the index creator ability using which I can create indexes on the table and improve the performance of the table. All right. Now,
Okay.
now when you create tables, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm okay. I
Okay,
think yeah.
right. Now, if you are looking at the tables here, you will see two parts to it, right? The first part you see is the table name separated by spaces as and when required. So this is actually the display name of the table. You will not use display name to access table programmatically, right? Use the real name of the tables, which is within the brackets here, like cmdb underscore ci underscore appl underscore dot underscore net. So you see that. So by looking at this name, we can, we can take we can gather an idea that this table that we are referring to is from the CMDB application, and this is talking about .NET applications, right? So to access the records from this table, you will not use the display name. Display name is just for illustration purpose. You can see and understand what this table could be, but to access the table, you have to use the real name of the table, which is cmdb underscore ci underscore appl.net, right? So see here, this one shows that this is the application, this is the table from the CMDB application. This table that we have is a system table related to security access control. This table is related to some application which is ITFM, finance management or something. I'm not sure what this is. This action table is related to ECC, which is external queue, so related to that application. So this will be used in cases of probes and sensors, which we'll talk about later. So looking at the table names, we get an idea what type of application it is associated to. If you see WF, which is telling us that this is related to some workflow-based application or something. So as you get familiar with the different types of tables or different types of applications, you will get an idea of what type of tables we are talking about. In this add attendees table, we see that X underscore 25488 is appended here, right? So this shows that this is a scoped application. This table was created within any scoped application, and this is appending the instance ID that I have for this developer instance in front of the table name. Okay. V underscore WS will be related to some other application. Again, we'll have to see what application is that. All right. There are also some of one of the cases, like the SLA table is independent of any prefixes, because this is the SLA application and this is the base table for the SLA application. The rest of the tables, you can see that SLA is appended to it in front of it. Okay. So this way you can look at different tables and get a rough idea of what application it is associated to, and then you can understand, and then you can look into and see the relationship of those tables, etc. Right?
we
Now,
have some information of each table in wiki. I mean, like what that table does or what is its representation.
yes, you will get, most of the table information, the system tables, you will get the information there.
Okay.
Let me see if I have that link. Some of the application table information may not be available on wiki, and as a developer, you might look into it and see. So there is a listing of all the tables, but this is showing you all the list of tables which are extending another tables. So of course we have a list of these tables here. Um, you will have to see. It should have all the table listing in here. We'll most probably we'll be talking about all the tables from CMDB. When we discuss about CMDB, we'll be talking about all the tables from CMDB. We'll be talking about a number of system tables. We'll be talking about different application tables like the change or problem or all the applications that we're going to talk about. We'll be talking about those tables. So it will give you a fair amount of idea about the tables that are in use and the areas that we are touching. We'll be talking about all those tables. If we explore more, we can get more references from Wiki where all the table listings are there. The link that I just used contains the list of all the tables that are extending other tables from ServiceNow. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, let me go to... So if I go to the incident table, when I select the table name from this table names list box here, the tree view here on the right side gets populated. That shows me all the columns available in here, right? Columns from the table. And when you select a particular column from here, you will get detailed information about the attributes that it contains, and those attributes will appear here, right? The attributes could be the name of the column that you are having, the type of it, whether it is mandatory field or optional field, what is the maximum length of the field. So all these sorts of information, is it a primary key field or not? Is it read only or writable field? You know, is it sortable or not? So these kind of attributes can be attached to different columns into the table, and when you hit these columns here, the column here, you will get all those attributes coming here in the column attributes section. Right now, the moment I select this active, I also see this element here. Right, see the concept of dot walking that we were talking about. If you are to reference the table column, you can use this element here and you can pick this value. For example, from code, if you have to access this active field, you will do incident.active, right? So you can get the traversal text from here in the element field. Now if I go to the assign to, if you see this assign to, here it is a plus button which can be expanded, right? The moment you click on this, it gets expanded and shows you another list of columns from this. So this plus button that we have here is showing me that this table is related to the incident table somehow. Meaning the incident table is referencing the assigned to table. So either it can extend it or there is some sort of relationship established between the assigned to table and the incident table. Okay. So when I expand it, columns from the assigned to table will be displayed here, right? And again, I see this building table coming in here. So which means that the assigned to table is also referencing the building table, right? There is some
So
relationship. Yeah, go ahead.
so when you expanded assign to table, as per the inheritance,
Yeah,
we should able to see all the columns from the
yeah,
parent table, which is the incident table,
right.
under the assign to,
No, no,
plus
no, no.
whatever the column of assign to.
Yeah. So when you expand it, you will see all the columns from the assigned to. On the top level, you are seeing all the tables from the incident table as well, right? So the ones without the plus sign are the columns from the same table, the incident table, like this one. The red bullets that you are seeing here, these are coming from the incident table. The plus buttons that you see and the table icon that you see along with the plus button is showing me that this is another table. So this table icon that you see is showing me that this is a table item.
Oh, okay, sorry. Mhm.
Okay, this is a
So
table.
so okay, it is inherited. So
Right.
I thought of either way. So
Hmm.
incident table is in what you call, no, assigned to table is inherited by
Incident table.
incident table.
Right.
Yeah.
Now when I expand this assigned to table and I go to the active field of the assigned to table, I want you to see the element field here. See the element field. I have selected the element field from the incident table right now. So the element field is incident.active. Now when I go and select the assign to.active, see the element field here, what it becomes. It now becomes incident.assigned underscore to.active. Right? So it is saying to you that you are actually accessing the active field from the assigned to table by being into the incident table. Right? So the context is the incident table, but you are looking for the column from the assigned to table, right? That's why you do incident.assigned underscore to dot active. Now, if I expand this building table, and I am sure it must have the active field as well. No, it doesn't have. Let me see if.
So I confused little bit here. So active column under assigned to
Mm-hmm.
um, is a column of a assigned to table,
Right.
or it is a column which is, so we have two active column, which is a different one. Incident have the active column, and assigned to is also active column.
Exactly.
Both
So
have the active.
yeah. So
Okay.
in the
So
example,
so then
yeah, go ahead.
hmm, hmm. So the question I earlier asked, if we update incident dot assigned to dot active, it will not update incident dot active, right? So
Exactly.
both two columns. Okay.
Exactly. It will
Hmm,
maintain the data integrity. You are not losing any
hmm,
data integrity from the incident table. So the incident.active will remain what it is. But since you are
hmm,
updating incident.assigned to .active, the
hmm.
incident.assigned to .active will be updated. And you will still be able to see it from the incident table. However, incident.active will remain
Okay.
what it is because you are not updating that field.
Hmm, hmm. Okay.
Okay. Now see, we are onto the second level of the hierarchy. Now I am going into the contact table, and contact table also has an active field, right? So I'm going to select this one, and then we will see how the element field will show what is the data or text displayed into the element field. Now I am going into the element field, and now you can see incident dot assign underscore to dot building dot contact dot active. Make sense? So this is the traversal that you are doing. Table 1 dot table 2 dot table 3 dot column name, right? So the way you are traversing, you are actually following the path. You are setting up the path for the tables and the columns that you are going to access.
This is, I guess, it's a kind of a shadowing, basically, right?
Yes, I'll use cascading. I think cascading is a better
Hmm,
word because you are cascading from one table to another table, and finally you are getting to the column that you are looking for. So you are cascading and traversing the path, and you are getting the information out from the table. Shadowing, yeah, maybe you can use that word. Okay. Is it clear now?
Yeah.
Kumaran, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh, so it's like a, this is called dot working.
Right.
So
This is
you are saying like,
yeah. This element that we are the text that we are seeing. This is dot walking.
okay,
All right.
yeah, understood. Yeah,
Now let's assume that you have to create a table. Right. Now different ways for creating tables are available. You can create table from this create table button. The first way, you see this create table button, you hit on it, you will get an interface to create a table. There you have to fill in certain fields, certain values, and your table will be created. Right? So this is the first way of creating a table into the ServiceNow. So let's look into an basic thumb rule. Whenever you open an interface, the content pane shows, generally it shows you a line or two about the form that you are seeing. For example, this content pane here shows me that a table is a collection of records in the database. Each record corresponds to a row and table, and each field on a record corresponds to a column on that table. Applications use table and records to manage data and processes. So this is the ServiceNow context to that content pane UI that is opened. And it will also show you the more information link, which will open up the wiki pages or docs.servicenow.com pages for more information on this UI that you are seeing. Right? So any UI you are on to, if you are going to create something, you might refer to the tooltip text that is coming up on the top of the UI. Right? Now, let's look into some of these fields that we have on this content pane UI. The first one is the label. So this is going to be the display name of the table. We saw the display name and the real name of the table into the tables and columns modules. So the display name will be the label that you set for that table. Right? And the moment you go away from this label field, the name field will be automatically populated. So if I do a tab out of this label field, the name field will be automatically populated as u underscore display underscore name. Now I told you, if you are into the global application, generally the table name that you create will be created using u underscore. Right? So it is taking u underscore first name of the table underscore last name of the table. Right? So anything, if you put anything, it changes accordingly. Appends u underscore, puts my server table underscore 1. Right? And the display name is usually in all lowercase, all lower cases. So the real name, you put it in all lower cases. So this is the tradition. Now u underscore is because I am into the global application. If I change this to some local application, let's assume that I am going to change the application from global to, let's say, I'm going to change to content management, CMDB, and I'm going to use the same table label here. Right? Now this time I can see that there is a different prefix to the table that we have created. It is SN underscore CMDB underscore content underscore display name. If I change it to some other application, for example, if I change it to marketing events application, which is my custom application, and I do the same name, it appends the instance ID along with X underscore this, and then takes the application name and then puts the display name of the table. And see here the application field gets populated with the application name in which we are into right now, right? So idea is to keep a check on what application you are onto, and then accordingly the table names will be populated. So, pay attention to it when you create tables. Okay. Now I'm going back to the global application. So the table application name here will be changed to global, and the display name I'm going to put as display name. So it will be u underscore display name, right? Extends table is optional item. You may like to extend a table, you may not like to, right? Now the thing is, if you are extending a table, the moment you extend the table and you save it, you will see all the columns down here into the columns list, right? So we'll come to it. So we have a field here, which is the label field, which is display name of the table. Name field is the real name of the table. Extends field is to extend a table from ServiceNow. Application will show you what application context you are into. Create module is a checkbox that is available when you create a table here and you want to create a module here into the application navigator. You can check this one as well, and a module for that table will be created in here. Make sense? Like you have modules, the archive email module we have here. So there must be some table associated to this archive email module, right? The tables module we have, the tables and columns module. So if you want to create a display name module, so assume that you want to create a module which is named as display name. So something like display name will be appearing here. So if you check this one, create module, it will create a module and display it here in this navigation page area, right? Create a mobile module, so it will create modules specific to mobile devices. So if you want to do that, you can take this one as well, right? And then there is the option of add module to menu. If you want that this module that I am creating is associated to a specific application, then you have to choose what module what menu you want to associate it to. For example, if you want to associate this module that you are going to create to service desk, so this module that you are creating, the display name, will go to the service desk application and will be displayed in that section of the service desk application only, right? Now again,
So,
yeah,
yes, so these two fields, which is create module and add module to menu, this I think is only applicable to the table only, right? Not applicable to any other, you know, any other entity in the ServiceNow.
what entity you are talking about?
Means let's say you are creating some business rule, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or sorry, some UI action.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it will not, or UI pages. It will not have create module and add module to menu, right? These two one.
No, see, uh, it's a good question. I think we should refer to a diagram. I'll have to find it out just to show how the different elements in ServiceNow are structured. Hang on a second, please. I'll get you a diagram that will show what component is lying on what layer of this ServiceNow architecture. All right. I'm going to. Can you see this diagram I have here?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I want to open this in a different window. So I want you to briefly look at it. Look at the left portion. Leave this security column and look at these left portions that we have here. So at the bottom you will see the table comes up. right? So the module that you create will be directly associated to the tables that you create, right? Oh,
No,
hang on,
I
hang on.
don't understand. I'm not following with it.
All right, hang on. So let me look at it. So at the top of it, you have the application record. The application uses tables created for those applications. So if you see in the slide, we had tables are the record-keeping devices or components in ServiceNow, and tables are being used by applications, right? Applications use tables to store data and retrieve data from the database, right? You agree on that point? So application
Yes.
will use tables, and when you create tables, which is the data house for you, on top of that table, you have the UI elements to design a UI which will enable the user to either input data into the table or extract data from the table, right? So the UI element or the UI action you are talking about is into a separate layer apart from the table that we created, apart from the application that we created. The application, of course, will be used by the users, but the element that will be displayed to you user will be the UI element. Table will not be exposed to the user directly. The exposure layer is the UI element. So there are different layers within the architecture. One starts with the application record, then it goes to the tables. UI element is where you create the different UI element for the forms that you design, menus, modules, list, forms, etc. Right? Then you have the application files. Um, in this layer where you create the business rules, workflows, UI actions, so you are actually giving the business functionality to your UI elements that you created. So this is a different layer. Like the when you do a .NET based coding or something like that, and you have different layers where you have a UI layer, then you have a UI layer or presentation layer, then you have a business unit layer, then you have a data interaction layer, or then you have the implementation layer. So different types of layers that you have. So think in those lines. You have the application layer, the top layer where you name the application. The next layer is the database layer where you have the database tables created for you. UI element is the presentation layer, what is being displayed to your users. Application files is a layer where your business functionality comes in. Integration is a layer where you will expose your web services, etc., to interface with different other elements. And dependencies or the workflow management, these will show basically the different types of these will have the access control rules, the entitlements, the rules, and the relationship between different tables, which is not just this table but other tables that expand your throughout your application, right? So to answer your question, the modules will directly be related to the tables you created, but it does not mean that every table that you create will have a module. That's an optional field. Every table you create, you may choose to show it as a module, you may not choose to.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go back to table here. So I'm not going to choose create module here. So this is optional, so the other two fields go away. I'm left with the columns field here, right? Now, if I have to create column 1, I'll choose column 1. So that is going to be a column for the display name table here. And then you have to choose the type of it, right? What type of data you want to store into this column 1. So you can click on this hourglass and you can see different data types that you have that you can associate to your column that you have created. If you want to associate it to a string, you can either search from the menu that just opened, or you can start typing in a string and select it from here. So you can choose a string or a string full UTF-8, etc. from here and then save it, right? The reference will not be used in all cases. This will only be used if the type you are choosing is a reference type. Meaning, if you are using a reference type, meaning you are referencing to other table and you are referencing to a particular column from other table, right? We will talk about it, what this reference field is. We'll go back to it. We'll talk about this reference field, right? If you are to put integer data, type an integer and you will get integer, right? If you want to put boolean value, or if you want to put a checkbox, so you have a true false field that you will see, and that will appear as a checkbox item on the form, right? So different data types we have here. Audio, you can associate audio file to it. True false will give you that checkbox. Choice will give you a drop down containing different items. Color will give you a color control or palette, like color control palette or something like that. Conditions will allow you to have different conditions. Currency, you understand what currency is. You can associate a data structure to it. We can look into what data structure is. You can associate decimal value, document ID, which will be a reference to some other document that is available in here. Dates, date field, date time field, duration, encrypted text, list, time, or all other fields, type of fields available into the list. And we can see there are 44 types available into ServiceNow, right? So we can look into, it will be an assignment for you to look into all the types of fields, or type fields available in ServiceNow. Try to use as much of them as you can and see how these fields will populate on the form, right? Now, you use reference only when you are trying to reference a field from another table. So that's a thumb rule. You associate max length to the field that you are choosing. For example, column 1, whatever max length you want to associate to this, for example 40, you will put the 40 value here. So the field value that when you insert into this column will be will be limited to maximum 40 characters, right? If you are trying to associate a default value to it, you can put a default value, whatever value you want to, you can put a default value to here, right? Now display,
We have a
yeah.
we have an identity column also in the type.
Yes, see, for that you will have to expand this settings gear here and see all other attributes available. So in the tables we have different other attributes that we saw there, right? Now you have to expand this settings gear button and you will choose what all field or attributes you want to associate here on the form, right? So when I do that, I now see the primary attribute coming in, and when you insert a record, then you can put the attribute here accordingly. For example, if you want to do that, you can go ahead and do primary, true or false, whatever attribute you want to associate, right? If you want to associate more attributes to it, hit on this gear button, go in here, look through, browse through all the attributes that you have. For example, the audit, right? If you do this, audit equals true, so you are allowing this column to be audited. This will keep a track of who altered this table, etc. These kind of information will be stored, and later you can audit the table and get that kind of information out from it. There are all other types of attributes available in here. We are only talking about the main attributes which are used generally, but then you can go ahead and find out all those attributes and see what all those attributes are doing here. Okay.
Okay.
So to your question, primary is available. You can use it for key field, for making it a key field. Now we were talking about this display field. Now display field is to show you, if I mark this column as a display field true, so what happens is when somebody opens this table from a different table. For example, I am into this type column right now, but this type information I can populate by clicking on this hourglass. When I click this hourglass, a pop-up will appear that will show me all the different data types available in ServiceNow, right? But these data types are stored into some table known as field classes, right? Now, from the table field classes, I am only seeing the label field. That's because within the field classes table, the label field has been set as display equals true, right? So when you open a table, you will see that display field here, that field here for which you have set the display equals true. There could be other fields, other columns into this field classes table, but those columns are not getting displayed because I had a display equals true attribute attached to this label field, right? Let me go into the field classes table. If we can find out the field classes, it was field classes, right? It is field class here. Hopefully this is the table. Anyway, I'm going to edit this table to see the structure of it. See the attributes, it's false. Class name, it is false. Label, it is true. Now, since you have kept this label equals true for this field class table, the moment you open this table from another table, meaning you are referencing this table, you are only seeing this label field displayed onto that area. So you are basically hiding certain number of details from this table onto different table, right? So concept of data hiding. So you are exposing a set of attributes to the users who are referencing this table, but at the same time you are hiding certain information from the users by putting the display equals false for all other fields. Make sense?
Yes.
Now I'm going to create a table. I'm naming it child task, and then I'm going to extend this task table here. So what it means that child task will have its own columns and then columns from the task table, right? I'm not going to create any module. I'm just going to save it as is without even creating any columns, right? My table name is u underscore child task. So I'm going to submit it. I submitted it. Now this table should appear into the list of tables that I have. Child task, right? So I have the list that contains the child task table now. Now see, I did not create any column into the table, but still I have a list of columns coming in onto here, right? Where is it coming from? It is coming from the extended table that I have. If I click on this active field here, let's look into what it shows. It is showing me u underscore child underscore task dot active. So, alright, there is one more point that I'll be discussing. So this is showing me a certain set of elements coming in, certain set of fields coming in, which is coming from the extended table. It does not has its own columns created as of now, right? However, it has a number of columns being displayed that is coming from the extended table that you have. And from the extended table, I can see that there are 68 columns coming in onto this table, the child table, right? So as of now, the child table has the 68 columns coming in. Now, if I go to late, if I go to see more details of the table, I can see there is one sys ID coming in here, and I also have a sys ID coming in here. All right. So I have two sys IDs, and you will argue why we have two sys IDs in here. So one is coming from child class, another is coming from parent class. Now, hold your thoughts. Let me go back, and I'm going to create one more table. Let's name it a sample table. I'm not going to extend any table to this one. I'm going to save it without creating any module. I'm going to save it. Sample table, u underscore sample underscore table. Now I'm going to open the sample table that we just created. When I select this, let's see the number of columns coming in. We have not extended any table to this table, and still we have these columns getting created. Created by sysID, tags, updated by, and updates, right? So the point is, the moment you create a table, ServiceNow will by default create a certain number of tables that it will use for maintaining the history or history of the tables, or finding out unique information about the records that you store into the table, right? So these are the default columns that get created by creating any table into the ServiceNow, right? So irrespective of the fact that you extend the table or not, you always get these columns into the table. Now if I edit the table, I'm editing the sample table here. I go back, scroll down, and I'll see all those columns coming in. That's why into the child table that we just created, which was extending the task table, we had two sysID fields. One was coming from the child table, another was coming from the extended parent table, which in this case was task table, right? Now this table, we did not create any column, we did not extend any table, we still have these six columns created by the string type, created as a datetime type, sysID is a GUID type, right? Updates as integer, updated by is a string, and update is datetime, right? Display field for all these columns is set as false because these are not getting displayed. We don't want to display these fields when we are referencing this table from another table. There is no primary field set up for this one. There is certain default max length attached to these fields, which is getting displayed here. There is no reference that we have here, right? So any table that you create will have these six columns. At least these six columns will be available in there, irrespective of the fact that you create any record into the table, any field into the table or not. Now, if I create one column, let's say I'm going to create a sample column to this table. Right, the table name that I selected as a sample table, and the type of the column that I'm going to create is, let's say, again, I'm going to put it as a string. And I'm going to put the name of the column as sample column. So when I put sample column as a name, the column name appears as sample underscore column. So it is populated automatically unless you change it. I'm going to associate a max length of 40. Now you have different attributes. When you create this column, you have different attributes here. You can put read only, you can put mandatory, you can put display, whatever attribute you want to put it here. This default value, we are not going to put here. Choice list specifications, this is not a choice list field, I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to submit it, right? So there are two ways. One way was that we created column directly from the form interface by using into the table column interface here. I double clicked here at the bottom of this page and I created a record in there. Otherwise, the other way was to hit a create column, this new column button, and then open up that interface and then getting that field created, right? So I just created one.
Rahul,
Yeah.
can you create one more column? I just wanted to show you something which I experienced before. Can you create one more column?
You are talking about the cross button?
Yeah, it's a
Sure,
cross button.
sure. So let's do that. I'm going to create one more. Yeah, tell me what values you want to use here. You want to use integer?
Yeah, you can use like a sample ID, maybe in integer. Yeah.
Let's use integer. I'm going to put a vague name here. Max length is not mandatory. Rest of the fields we can leave as the default one. Okay,
Mhm.
submitted. Scroll down to see the column is created. These cross buttons will appear for all those custom columns that you create for the table. It will not appear for any of the columns that are created by default by ServiceNow, or it will not appear for any of the columns from the extended table. These
But
cross
you know
buttons.
what? I have created this table in my application scope,
Mm-hmm,
and I created three fields like employee ID, first name, and last name.
mm-hmm.
So that employee ID was like, I think it was integer, and that cross button was not showing, in to the employee ID. However, it was showing only for first name and last name. So I was thinking like why it is showing here and why it is not showing in employee ID.
So maybe we can
I
look
asked
into.
that question in community, yeah, and
Hmm.
they said it's a bug, but I don't know.
I
I'll show
have.
you
Okay,
tomorrow.
all right. Let's see that tomorrow. I have not seen that kind of
Mm,
behavior as of now. Maybe that is a bug, but usually the cross button will come with all the custom columns that you create for that table, right? It will not come for any of the default columns that are created or the extended table columns that you create by including the extended table into the table. Okay, let's see that tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be seeing that and try to find out what is happening there. All right. So this is how you create a table into, but then there are different other attributes or UI actions associated to it, like design form, layout list, show form, etc. So we'll be looking into all these fields along with this controls and application access. Let's look into all these fields and values and attributes tomorrow. As of now, we learned today how to create a table, how to find out different tables into the ServiceNow instance, how to look into different modules, how to see the different columns used from extended tables, do dot walking, right? We understood what display fields are. We also understood how
yeah.
to associate, non-default attributes to the table columns that we see here by extending this personalized list button here, right? Then we created the columns and tables into the tables into ServiceNow, and then we created one table with extended table, another table without extending any table, right? So these are the things that we learned today. Tomorrow we'll be looking into all other attributes and UI actions that we have on this form. Okay?
Right. One more thing we can